I stared at the two identical receipts, my hands trembling. One for our apartment on North Clark Street, the other for an address on West Wacker Drive I'd never seen before. Double order. Every single day for the past 6 months. It was a simple meal prep service she'd started. Something to keep her busy. But the numbers didn't lie. My wife, Sarah, wasn't just building a business. She was building a second life, and I was paying for it. If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel. Tell us where you're from and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. It started subtly, a chill in the air that had nothing to do with the Chicago wind whipping off Lake Michigan. Sarah, the woman whose laugh used to be the soundtrack to my life, had become a stranger. Her smiles were thin, her touches fleeting. When I tried to pull her close at night, she'd turn away, murmuring she was tired from work. "The meal prep is exhausting," she'd say, her voice flat. You wouldn't understand. I tried to be supportive. I'd rub her shoulders, tell her how proud I was. She'd just nod, her eyes fixed on her phone, a device that had become a fortress I couldn't breach. She'd angle it away from me, her fingers flying across the screen, a faint, secretive smile playing on her lips. When I'd ask who she was texting so late, it was always a supplier or a new client. The excuses were seamless, practiced. I felt a growing knot of humiliation in my stomach. I was being managed, handled, like a child who asks too many questions. The love and partnership we'd built over 7 years felt like it was dissolving into a business arrangement where I was the silent, clueless investor. The suspicion became a physical weight. I started noticing things. The extra mileage on her car, the scent of a men's cologne, sharp and unfamiliar, clinging to her coat one evening. She'd laughed it off. "Must have brushed past someone on the L train," she'd said, her eyes not quite meeting mine. Then came the receipts. I was cleaning out her car as a surprise and found a crumpled one from a high-end jewelry store in the Gold Coast. A man's watch. Engraved. It wasn't my birthday. It wasn't our anniversary. My heart hammered against my ribs. That night I couldn't sleep. The image of the receipt burned behind my eyes. Around 2 a.m., her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She didn't stir. My hand shook as I reached for it. I knew her passcode. She'd told me months ago in a moment of manufactured trust. The screen lit up. A string of texts from a contact named Mark J. My blood ran cold. The messages were sickeningly sweet. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow, my love. Thinking of the taste of your lips." And then the one that broke me. A picture of him, smug and smiling, wearing the exact watch from the receipt. The caption read, "Best gift ever. You spoil me." I scrolled up. Weeks, months of this plans for secret meets. Criticisms about me. Jokes at my expense. He lived at the West Wacker Drive address. The double portion wasn't for a client. It was for him. Every day she cooked for us. For her husband and her lover. I stumbled back from the bed, a silent scream trapped in my throat. I ended up on the cold tiles of the bathroom floor, my body racked with silent sobs. The betrayal was absolute. It wasn't just a physical affair. It was a deep, emotional, and financial deception. She was using my money, my support, to build a life with another man. The love I felt for her curdled into something else, something cold and sharp. The grief was a physical pain, a hollow ache in my chest. But as the sun began to rise, casting long shadows across our apartment, the grief began to crystallize. It hardened into a single, chilling resolve. They had humiliated me. They had laughed at me. They would not get away with it. My tears dried up, and in their place, a calm, methodical anger settled in. I wasn't just going to leave her. I was going to dismantle the life she had so carefully constructed. I was going to take everything. My transformation was immediate. The next morning, I was the perfect, doting husband. I made her coffee. I asked about her business, my voice laced with fake admiration. Inside, I was a machine, my mind worried with strategy. The first step was evidence, irrefutable proof. I installed a small, undetectable keylogger on her laptop. I bought a voice-activated recorder and hid it in her car. Every text, every email, every whispered phone call became a file in a folder on my encrypted hard drive. I learned that Mark was a junior partner at a competing firm. He was married too. The irony was bitter. They were too arrogant, Selfish people who thought they were smarter than everyone else. I followed them. I watched from across the street as they met for lunch at a cafe on Michigan Avenue, holding hands under the table. I took photos, saw him get into her car, the same car I paid the insurance on. I recorded their conversations, her laughing as she mocked my cluelessness. Each piece of evidence was a stone, and I was building a wall that would eventually crush them both. With the evidence secure, I began setting the traps. I contacted the best divorce attorney in Chicago, a shark known for his scorched earth tactics. We mapped out a strategy. Under Illinois law, while adultery doesn't guarantee a lopsided asset split, dissipation of marital assets does. Sarah had been dissipating assets with gusto. The fancy meals, the gifts, the secret apartment all paid for with money from our joint accounts. My lawyer grinned. "This is beautiful," he said. Next, I did some digging into Mark. His wife, it turned out, was the daughter of the senior managing partner at his law firm. A powerful, influential family. I compiled a neat, anonymous package for her. Photos, text logs, and a short, simple note. "You should know what your husband does on his lunch breaks." I timed it perfectly. I knew Mark's firm was about to announce its new senior partners. An internal scandal would be devastating for his career. The final piece of the puzzle was Sarah's business. I discovered she'd been operating without the proper licenses and had been severely underreporting her income to avoid taxes. A simple, anonymous tip to the IRS and the city's Department of Business Affairs was all it took. The day I chose for the detonation was our 8th anniversary. I booked a table at our favorite restaurant, the one where I proposed. She arrived looking radiant, smiling that fake smile. She talked about the future, about expanding her business. I just nodded. A cold calm settled over me. Halfway through dinner, her phone began to buzz incessantly. She ignored it at first, but the calls kept coming. Finally, she excused herself. I watched as she stood by the window, her face turning from confusion to panic, then to sheer horror. Mark was calling. His wife had confronted him. The anonymous package had arrived. Simultaneously, an email notification popped up on her phone. An official inquiry from the IRS, then another from the city. Her house of cards was collapsing in real time. She stumbled back to the table, her face ashen. "What's happening?" she stammered. I just looked at her, my expression blank. I slid a single manila envelope across the table. Inside were the divorce papers, along with copies of the photos of her and Mark. "I know everything, Sarah," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "It's over." The aftermath was brutal and efficient. Mark was fired immediately, his career in ruins. His wife filed for divorce, and her family made sure he was ostracized from their social and professional circles. He was a pariah. Sarah's business was shut down, and she was facing a mountain of fines and back taxes that would take her years to pay off. In our divorce, the judge awarded me 70% of our assets due to her clear dissipation of marital funds. She was forced to sell the jewelry, the designer clothes, everything she'd bought to impress her lover. She lost the apartment. She lost her friends, who were horrified by her deception. She lost everything. She tried to call me once. Weeks later, her voice choked with sobs, begging for forgiveness. I listened silently before hanging up. There was nothing left to say. Sometimes I walk past that apartment on West Wacker Drive, the one where she built her secret world. The lights are always off now. It's just an empty space in a tall building, a ghost of a life that never was. She tried to have it all, and in the end, she was left with absolutely nothing. The cold Chicago wind feels good on my face.